Okay, thank you. Welcome back again. The word after this question and answer session is back to the professor, unless you still have questions. Oh, whoa.
I just wanted to add one thing that I was discussing with Peter and with Rudy, which I think everybody might benefit from hearing. My confusion was that it's not so much that the merchant banker adds the time element, which was there in various ways previously. What he adds is market making, and he makes a standardized fungible bond. When the annuitant gives money to the annuitant, it's a private contract between two parties with no transparency, no standardization. There's no way that anybody else could buy that bond. So yes, it's an improvement over hoarding and dishoarding, but it's illiquid. It's not that it's illiquid, it's completely unmarketable. It's just a private contract. The merchant banker now turns it into a fungible bond that can be sold regularly and have a bid-ask spread and have transparency. And
the key word is fungible, but this is not a very well-known word. So somebody would care to explain the meaning of the word fungible?
Well, I'll offer what I think it means. The meaning that I had when I said the word is that if you have two bonds that are both 10-year bonds and have the same other terms and conditions and the same interest rate, one is interchangeable with the other. Bond A and bond B, you might as well just call them both 10-year bonds.
So for example, one mortgage contract is not fungible because the house is a different place, the environment is very different, and so on and so forth. So there is really no mortgage market where mortgages are exchanged against mortgages. Therefore, we need something more fungible than a mortgage. And that is the goal. By the way, this answers the question. So, do you see that a mortgage is not fungible? Great difficulties arise if you want to change. For instance, you have a house which is mortgaged, I have a house which is mortgaged, and we want to change houses. That's so, if we agree, that's fine. But it's not so simple to swap mortgages. So what you have to do is you go to the merchant banker and make a deal with him to change your mortgage for a gold bond. So you sell your mortgage for a gold bond or gold and then gold bond, and I have to buy or do the same, I'm sorry, and then make the exchange at the gold bond level. Why can you do that? Because the gold bond is fungible. I'll ask if this clarified it, or we shall have to explain it more.
Is anybody there's nobody that left us here. Nobody left us. But there is one thing I may have to add here. In case anybody is wondering what is the purpose of constructing such an abstract model, where is this leading to? In fact, it would be my comment to say, well, one, it gives us way much more insight than the equilibrium model, such as the ISLM model that some of you may know. Count yourself lucky if you don't. But the purpose, secondly, I would say, is see what's going on with policy. If policymakers, such as central bankers, do something like upping interest rates or pushing it down, this model can explain what will happen and why. And perhaps it gives you the consequences. Same for lawmakers. Why should or shouldn't you make certain or pass certain laws because there will be consequences. I'll go into that tomorrow, but there is a very definite purpose in a deeper understanding. That was, in fact, one of the questions that I've received before.
Okay.
Did I see a... Yes, of course. Louis?
The merchant banker or investment banker in your model, Professor, is a good banker.
Is
A good banker. It's not the banksters of today, right?
well, to my mind, you cannot make a theory where a banker is a bad banker.
Okay.
Because there is, you know.
But in your model, correct me if I'm wrong, the role of the merchant banker, as you put it, is positive and good because the banker interacts with the entrepreneur and the inventor, not the annuitant and the annuitant. Is that a good observation or not?
I wouldn't distinguish between the two because I would say whatever partnership you can form of the five and it has a surplus or it has a deficit, there is a problem. The question is, can this be offset, either the surplus or the deficit, within the Pentagon, form another partnership, and then they can make an exchange and the problem is solved? And the answer is no, unfortunately, and we gave one example and there are several others when it doesn't work. It needs a specialist, just like at an earlier stage we discovered that we need the capitalist services. So, you know, the same way at this higher level we see that adding the capitalists did not solve all the problems, solved some but not all. And what I'm suggesting is, and you may argue on that, is that adding the merchant banker, honest, good banker, because we don't deal with crooks in our theory, if you add him as a specialist, then all these problems caused by surpluses or deficits can be offset in that capital market model within. You need not add a new specialist, because this closes the system. It makes it self-contained. This is what I'm suggesting.
And I think it's absolutely right. I don't disagree with the model. I think it's brilliant. But I'd like your comment on this. I couldn't help myself but look at this hexagonal and see that the Mises triangle is there, and that's very dynamic and very productive and good. But adding the merchant banker introduces the possibility of the opposite triangle, which would be MB to the annuitant and the annuitant.
Well, you can put in now the...
I can make several.
And I would argue, Professor, that
point out which triangle you
AT to AD,
Yeah.
and AD to MD, and MD to AT.
And? So AD and B.
Yeah. So I would argue that I look at the merchant banker as the financier, the finance, right? And finance should have a contributing role to what happens in the economy. But we live in a world today where finance is running everything.
Finance?
Is running the show. Finance, Wall Street with speculation has too big a part to play. So Could it be that we operate these days under the wrong triangle? Not the Mises triangle, but this finance has taken over, if you like, with the derivatives and the bond speculators, because what you said the tool of the merchant banker is the bond, the gold bond.
Gold, well, that is a big difference.
Right. Well, we don't have the gold bond, right?
No.
What we have is fiat money. What we have is derivatives upon derivatives upon derivatives and bond speculators. So, would you agree that this triangle I just pointed out would be the prevailing one? That's why we're in such a mess.
I would say there's nothing wrong with that triangle.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it. What is wrong
with
with
this merchant banker?
No. It's neither the character of the merchant banker nor the choice of the triangle, but it is the lack of gold financing. Gold is locked up either in central banks or in the hoards of private individuals who want to profit from the rise of the gold price. But nobody advocates outside of our group putting the gold coin into circulation, and then of course there will be a gold bond market with several different maturities and so on. There will be a gold rate of interest, which is natural, which is not manipulated, and if you have that, then the the various problems, I mean, this is just one problem, that not all annuitants can find their counterpart, and therefore not all exchanges can be made. And therefore these sub-marginal annuitants cannot make their contribution. It's a social law, not just an individual loss. It's a social loss. You see, but the reason, there's just one reason. It's not the character of the banker. It's not that we have a funny triangle there making problems, a joker triangle. No. It's simply the fact that we don't have a gold bond. And we should. And as soon as gold would put into circulation, there would be gold bonds. You see, I'm not even suggesting that we should go straight back to the gold standard, because this is not a realistic proposition under the present. I wish we could, but I'm realistic enough to say. But there is no reason why Euroland, we should get together and say, these Americans are trying to boss us here, but this is our Europe, and the Federal Reserve does not make the rules here, and the IMF doesn't make the rules here. We make the rules, and we want gold and silver coins in circulation. So what we will do is we'll go back to the Latin monetary union and take those gold coins which they have had in the 19th century, take those silver coins and put them in circulation, issue gold bonds, issue silver bonds, and try to solve the problem that way. I have just discussed this with Carlo. Take two pieces of agricultural land, very similar, high quality land and so on. And one is in production, it's cultivated year after year. And that one is left fallow, which means barren, not used, outside of production. Now I'm fully aware that you have to give a chance to the land in production to recover, so every third or fourth year, you leave it fallow. Let's just ignore that. Let's just say, for some reason, the owner of this land leaves it fallow. Okay? Now, I'm suggesting it to you that the value of the land under cultivation is worth, is worth 10 times the value of the land which is left fallow. And in the same way, this is now gold in the vault of a central bank, frozen, immobilized, okay? And that's gold which is free to circulate. I'm suggesting it to you that one coin, gold coin, which is in circulation is worth at least 10 times the value of the gold coin which is locked up. And what this means is if Greece takes all the gold in the vaults and strikes coins according to the standards of the Latin monetary union, and those coins go into circulation, then the national wealth of Greece will increase in the same proportion, 1 to 10. And actually this is not a fixed number because it depends how fast these gold coins circulate. And the faster they circulate, the more credit they can carry. So this is a phony problem that Greece is over-indebted, Italy is over-indebted, Spain is over-indebted, Ireland is over. Phony problem. If gold coins were also in circulation in addition to paper euros, then it would be a very viable monetary system. It would have something which can extinguish debt. Euro banknotes will not be able to extinguish ultimate extinguisher of debt, but the gold coins will be ultimately. And then a great addition to the liquid wealth of the European community. And the only reason they don't do that is because in America, at the Fed or the US Treasury, will say, "Niet." But time has passed long ago that they were in the position to say "Niet." They cannot say "Niet" anymore.
They still have a large military, though.
Well, are you suggesting that they would invade Greece and take over the government by military means if Greece, with the support of the European community, say that we are going to open the Greek mint to gold and silver? So we invite anybody in the whole world to come forward with gold and silver, and our mint will convert the bullion into gold drachmas and silver drachmas, and with a 5% charge we'll give it to you back. I don't think the US, well, they won't even understand the meaning of this. But, you know, what kind of games they play in Iraq and Afghanistan, I don't think they could play in Greece and Italy. I don't think so. So, that is the solution. Believe me, if you think it over, you will see that in Europe, as it is, in the European, in Euroland, as some journalists jokingly call this monetary union, there is know that problem. It's completely artificial. It's owing to the outrageous immobilization of the national wealth carried in the form of gold and silver. It's completely artificial. Once you free it, once you immobilize it, this problem will disappear and a great leap in prosperity will follow. Now, I'm not saying that there is no need for controlling government expenses and pursuing graft or corruption, which there is probably a lot in Greece. I'm not knowledgeable about that, but they say all kinds of things that every citizen of Athens, or most citizens of Athens, are jumping the gates at the subway, underground railway, which the European community built for the Olympics, and that those employees of the underground railway are overpaid, and then they have to take aerial survey of swimming pools because only 1% of swimming pool owners pay the tax on this. This is all possible, I don't know. But first of all, there could be a natural correction of that if gold coins are circulation. I believe that. You may not, but that's not really the point. The point is that the big problem is not that some swimming pool owners cheat on their taxes, or some of the railway employees are overpaid. These are minor problems which you can deal with individually and won't merit. The big problem, which would make a big difference, and it would immediately make this problem disappear, is the fact that Greece has lots of gold, in fact, and so does Italy. I mean, per capita. If you calculate the gold in the vaults of the National Bank of Greece, you have to divide it by the population of Greece. And the same in Italy. And, you'll be surprised. You'll find that these countries are, in fact, very well placed as far as gold is concerned. The problem is not that there is no gold or little gold, but that the gold is locked up and cannot enter circulation. So it's a frozen asset. It doesn't do any good. And there's no reason that we should. The only reason is the order from Washington. And they should emancipate themselves, these countries. And that is the solution. Yes.
Rudy?
I suggest you look at the merchant banker and remember his tool is a gold bond. A bad banker doesn't use a gold bond. Goldman Sachs went to Italy with derivatives and hid their borrowing and did all kinds of shenanigans, which you cannot do with a gold bond. So if you get back to the gold bond, you get rid of all those bad bankers stuff. And all these things tend to go away. And of course, the gold has to be in circulation so that there can be a gold bond, and it's like dominoes, one after another.
Yeah, that was the old false one.
All I was trying to do is superimpose on this reality of today.
Sure.
Yes. Well, I said that knowing this model gives you not only the abstract knowledge, but also the applied knowledge. Because now, if I say lawmakers can apply this knowledge for a purpose, they can immediately say, well, fine, we make two kinds of banks. A commercial bank with assets limited to real bills, and that can easily be checked. And the second kind of bank, or mutual, or whatever, which would be the investment type or merchant kind of banker, with long-term
gold bonds as the assets.
With gold bonds as assets. Can easily be checked. And the license will be for either or. Full stop. But if you don't know this model, and you listen to the wrong kind of advisors, then once again, honest lawmakers make stupid mistakes. Yes. This kind of honest banker discussion can be solved. Not that you cannot forever stamp out fraud. I mean, that is not possible. But can easily be looked up. And, the mismatch, like Sandeep said, the misallocation of short and long dated paper can easily take place in a kind of a bank that mixes both. So one should distinguish that even under a gold standard you shouldn't mix these types of banks.
Of course.
Let alone, but I think this model is still valid under an irredeemable regime. There's two slight tweaks that will need to happen to make it explain, namely that the floor and the ceiling of your interest rate are now two different processes with different tools. Under a gold standard, it's the gold bond, but under an irredeemable standard, it's a different kind of process.
One more question. Will you consider Glass-Steagall a step to separate these two banks? Because that was repealed a few years ago, and commercial banking and financial banking, whatever, was put under one roof. And Glass-Steagall was designed to keep them separate back in the...
Yeah, but the trouble was that almost at the same time, the gold standard was finished in the United States. So to have the full strength of this measure, you've got to have both gold standard and the separation. And by the way, even that is not as rigid as it sounds, because suppose there's a big bank and then it has to have two departments. One is the merchant banking department and the other is the commercial. And their books have to be kept separate. It could be the same shareholders, could be the same directors of the bank, same managers of the bank, but they are by law obliged to keep their books separate for these two departments. That's enough. I don't know if Glass-Steagall went that far, but
if I may just interject one thing, the United States prospered for almost a century and a half without Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall was created by an insane regulator, FDR, who was frantically panicking and just creating law after law after regulation after regulation after distortion after distortion. I would look very, very cynically at everything FDR did and question if anything he did was good, because his intent was consistent. Central takeover, planning, and outright nationalization as much as he could possibly get away with. And Glass-Steagall was clearly part of that regime.
We continue after this. Are you going to say more?
we go until 5, right? No, we just, if there are questions, everybody can ask it, but I have more to say.
Okay. Any more remarks? I saw a hand there. Was it not? Maybe I can ask a question. it has to do with classical economics.
Another regulation.
In fact, the name Pareto optimum will in fact come to mind, and when you read or when you are schooled in traditional economics, you are going to meet Mr. Pareto one time or another. Now he comes out of equilibrium theory, and I know that, but maybe my question here to you is, would this be very similar to a Pareto optimum?